to episode 446 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where I have a mouth ulcer and I'm finding it very difficult to speak, but normally it's a filmmaking podcast where we talk filmmaking, from indie films to studio films to high-end TV and
everything in between.
How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to
really F them up.
In our very, very humble opinion. The man with the mouth spot, should we say, it's just on the end of my tongue and it's really annoying, is Giles Alderson. That's me. And the person who hasn't got the mouth ulcer is...
Dom. Me.
Which is you.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've just had my gnashers finished, did the older Invisalign thing. So now I've got like repaired teeth, but there's a micro lisp like trying to fight its way into my speech. So I'm also just working on the speaky thing and
the speaky thing. So, and which is very useful for a podcast for both of us right now.
But I look reasonable, so that's.
Well, your face is great.
Thank you.
All that matters. On this week's podcast, we have Drew Hancock, the director of Companion, and the two brilliant editors, Brett Bachman and Josh Ethier. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, he hasn't been on before, but he is back, man.
Oh, very good, very good.
So I went to like one of those little BAFTA-y things before a screening yesterday.
Yeah.
And there was a lady there. I think she works in like finance and accounting, and she knew of you purely because of your tallness.
What?
She only remembered you. She just remembered like Giles. Is there another guy on the podcast? I was like, yep, Giles. He's like, yeah, Giles, really tall. I remember him because he was taller than everyone else in the in the networking event. I was like, well,
that's
okay.
Crazy.
So, and it just suddenly occurred to me, like, is that why you're good at networking? Because you're just taller than everyone else, so you stand out.
I mean, I'm not that tall. I mean, yeah, I'm tall. I'm 6'2", but
I mean, you could say that. But when I said the Giles Talderson joke, it went down a treat. So I would argue that you are quite tall. Yeah.
It went up a treat, I'd suggest. Before we get to more BAFTA stories and the fact that someone recognised me for being tall, which may be the first time in my life, and I'll take it, we have another AI style, because clearly I am AI. We have another AI style movie for you, or person. That doesn't make sense. That link makes no sense. I failed on my...
Giles Alderson.
No, exactly. It doesn't work. I've ruined it.
Yeah. Speaking of robotic conversation.
Speaking of robotic conversation, that's it. That's the one. Speaking of terrible intros and robotic conversation, we are thrilled that myself and Dom sit down with the director Drew Hancock, who is making massive waves with a brilliant, unique vision and storytelling ability with Companion. Drew Hancock is the director of this gripping new thriller. It stars the incredible Sophie Thatcher. Again, I think my tongue nearly fell out of my mouth then.
Yeah, she has that effect.
So we're going to explore the intricacies of
as a very talented creative working in the film industry, just to clarify that one.
She's brilliant as a robot in this movie. So Boogeyman, she was fantastic, and then very recently in Beckham Woods' movie Heretic as well, she's fantastic. And you were about to say?
Yeah, no, just lots of layer, and it's kind of like really just, you know, being cast as someone that's got tons of personality but lots of range, and yeah, definitely like sort of that smart horror territory going into drama. She's absolutely nailing it.
Yeah, she's wonderful. So it's like a very suspenseful movie. It's intricate, and it's the challenges of bringing like a fresh voice to the genre is always very difficult, but Drew seems to have done that straight away, and it's kind of splashed, you know, because he's first time movie director as well, and breaking through, it's really quite incredible, to be honest. I think it's great. So was that a yawn?
Yeah. It was
Did I bore you?
Yeah. Just like Charles talking again.
Charles Talderson talking away. I was just looking at his chest because his eyes are so high. But Drew's made some like short films that garnered critical attention, and then he went on the festival circuit with them. He was an editor, he's a cinematographer, and he's built this formidable foundation. And now as like companion, like we say, stepping into the spotlight, he's showcasing his unique ability to like craft that tension and draw out powerful performances. So we're going to dive deep into the making of Companion, how he directs Sophie, sound design,
and just making a good like a good sort of stylish film that's well paced. It has bits of funny, it has bits of comedy, it has very good thriller elements, and also that kind of smart AI psychological thriller. It's very well balanced genre, actually. Like, you know, commercial and smart.
Yeah, it is absolutely fantastic. If you've not seen it, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun, really brilliantly well made.
Yeah, I mean, if you want like just a classic movie to watch on, like, you know, Friday night with a couple of friends, or, you know, maybe your partner or something, you want something that's like fun and light, but also not like just popcorn, you know, sort of shallow sort of film. It really does hit both of those territories very well.
It does. It also stars Jack Quaid, Lucas Gage, Megan Suri, Rupert Friend as well. A brilliant role for him. Really fun. We'll be joined by the editors, Brett Bachman and Josh Ethia. But I want to talk more about who recognised me at BAFTA, to be honest. And then we'll get into the episode with Drew. So if you could name a few more like people, that'd be really nice. Make me feel good.
Who?
Anyone?
What's that? Anyone else that recognised you for being tall?
Or just anyone, you know, when you're at BAFTA and they just talk about me. Sounds like it's a great thing. I'll take it.
Oh yeah. Just where's the other idiot?
That's putting down yourself at the same time. I love it. Where's the other idea?
Oh god.
Oh dear. Anyway, we've got good news. You are releasing your latest film that you produced with the Shakespeare Sisters, directed by Chris Redding, and it is Time Travel is Dangerous. Very exciting. It's got a cinema release in about 4 days.
Yeah, it is. It was very dangerous. It's 27th of March. Every Man.
It's literally 4 days.
Yeah. Every Man, Muswell Hill premiering, and then it's doing like a sort of national tour. There'll be London screenings and up north screenings, a couple down south. I think there's one in Birmingham, hopefully Cambridge. So yeah, keep an eye out on the socials. It's a feel-good romp for all the family. British comedy. Yeah, some classic characters and capers. Amazing.
Yeah, I was also first ADing for part of this movie as well, so I was involved, which is really nice. The girls are amazing. Chris is brilliant. He's getting fantastic reviews. It's really, really fun. I've not seen it yet.
Neither have I. Not the final version.
What?
I watched the sort of before VFX polished versions, but I'm yet to see it because I was abroad. I seem to always be abroad when the screenings and the festivals come up. So
yeah, but you're going to the premiere, right? Next couple of days. Yes,
that's right. Yeah, rumor is I might even be hosting. Who knows?
Rumour has it, primo host, John Lenoir, giving it big un. Yeah, and there's a reason why I won't be able to sadly make it, isn't there, Dom?
Because you are shooting your next feature film, Sessions.
I am, yeah.
Up in Ipswich.
I am. I'm heading there tomorrow, technically Sunday, because we're recording this on Saturday. To start, we're starting Tuesday, which is when this podcast drops, so that'll be the first day of filming for 4 weeks. Very exciting. Back in the directing chair again. Lots going on, lots of so much prep. Tech recce's constantly. It's very exciting, and we'll announce the cast very soon. I think it'll go to press shortly, etc. But yeah, I'm off to do that. So Dom is holding fort as always. Anyway, generally these days. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I mean, the last one I did okay without you on the views.
Well, we should talk about that. Adolescence last week, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. We've had nearly 70,000 views on our YouTube.
I mean, that's pretty good it's about 4 or 5 days ago. That's not bad. It's not bad.
For us as well, considering we don't push the YouTube, it's ridiculously incredible. So if you do go watch Dom being incredible actually with both those interviews, then please subscribe, because if we can get over 1,000, then we can actually monetize. So Dom can actually get some pennies for turning up and doing an amazing job. So if you'd be so kind, even if you don't want to watch it, just go on our YouTube and subscribe, please. Because we're literally maybe 120 away now.
Yeah, it does take a lot of food to feed me, so these are considerations you want to keep there.
It's true, and that's a great link for Food for Thought. It's still on YouTube. Go watch it. We're at 30,000 views now as well, which is immense.
Not as many as my interview.
I knew you were going to do that, but it's not as many as mine. No, but you had Stephen Graham.
Yeah, true.
We had me and Dan. But anyway, do people want to hear more of us? Probably. Don't know, but they definitely want to hear Drew Hancock. So let's buckle up, film lovers, because this is going to be a fascinating conversation. No, it is a fascinating conversation with myself, Dom, and the director of Companion, Drew Hancock.
Oh,
hey, Drew, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, very good.
How's it going, Drew? Well done on the film.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's good.
I mean, I was really excited about this film in general because we talked a little bit with the editors about the sort of tonal shifts, but it manages to be a really, really smart kind of sci-fi, artificial intelligence style movie. But then it also has light bits of comedy. It has really good kind of thriller action, and it's really like popcorn fun as well without ever being silly. I mean, it's got so many different genres, going through it. And we talked a little bit about how that sort of shifted, but it'd be great to hear from you what the initial kind of inception for the project and, why this movie sort of idea sort of came about and those kind of initial beginnings.
Yeah. So, I mean, full disclosure, the script came out just out of necessity. It came out because I was in a place in my career where I was not getting the job opportunities that I wanted. And I was just feeling creatively unfulfilled. And the pandemic forced me to kind of sit down and be reflexive and not literally, but, figuratively stare in the mirror and think about what it is that where I want to be, where I am now. The gap between those two things was bigger than I probably realized at the time. But the companion came about was just me going, well, you're working in TV. You're not a TV fan. You've always been a movie guy. You started writing in television because that's where the jobs were, television. My agents were like, you got to write TV. And that's just what I did. I just was living comfortably, but I was just feeling creatively unfulfilled. And so, over the course of the pandemic, I just decided to sit down and write something that was reflective of my voice. And that's where Companion came about. And I don't think I was doing this consciously, like the tonal shifts, but now, looking back, I'm like, oh, I was treating it as if this might be the last script I write. So let's throw in everything I love into one script and see if it works. And so that's why there's elements of heist and heist movie and comedy and horror and thriller and sci-fi and all through the thread of told through a relationship drama. Yeah.
It's incredible, Drew. It really is that this is kind of, I don't want to say directorial debut because obviously you have directed bits and pieces, of course, over the time. But in terms of a feature film like this, would you say it probably is in that sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I hadn't really thought about it. I had dinner with a friend last night and they asked me what's this is obviously the longest thing you've ever directed. And then it made me think, well, what's the second longest? I was like, I think 6 minutes. I think that's I made little short comedy videos in my 20s. And then I abandoned that because I found myself in a position where, I wasn't Paul Thomas Anderson. I wasn't getting, opportunities where people were like, write and direct. So I was like, okay, well, I love both of them. Which one would if I had to pick one, which one should it be? And I discovered that from trying both out, that when I was directing things that other people wrote, I my brain doesn't work that way. Like I look at someone else's script and I'm like, I don't know why any of these choices were made. Like I need to know like from the molecular level, every word choice and why it's there. And so I would rather write something that someone else directed than direct something that someone else wrote. Because even if I wrote something I'm in full control, it could get screwed up. It could be, there's a billion things that can go wrong, but at least I have that great, couple months sitting at a computer by myself, just inside my own brain. It's just what, that's my favorite part of the process is the world building in my head.
Yeah. And on that, was there any kickback, in terms of you directing? Because this is a big movie. Me and Dom love this movie, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
And it's quite incredible to sort of go, this is his directorial debut. Oh my gosh, it's literally mind-blowing that that's the case. Did you fight for it? Did you sort of say, I don't care, I love this script, I am directing it, you're going to have, if you want this script, you want me? No,
I mean, I wrote in television for 15 years. And so like, I'm 45. Like, so I've seen it all. I've lived every Hollywood cliche you've ever had. Like I had that moment in my 20s where I thought I had it made, and I was like, oh my God, I got my first big job, and cut to me at Costco, like with a shopping cart filled with like a flat screen television and iPads. And I'm like, the money's never going to run out. And then like 2 months later, the show's canceled. I'm like, oh, I really wish I had that money back.
Like TV.
But damn, that flat screen's good.
Not worth as much.
There's many things you regret, but never the flat screen.
That is true.
True. Yeah. Maybe the iPod because it like went out of date like 2 months later. But everything else was a poor choice. But yeah, so that's just me saying like I've had every experience, like the heartache, the heartbreak, and I know. I know that I've seen it before. I've seen people attaching themselves to the director and it hurts the project if you're a first time director because people just don't take it seriously and you're hindering it, and so I didn't want to be a hindrance for this movie. My objective is like, first of all, let's write something that you're proud of. Second of all, if we can get it made, great. And if we can't get it made, I don't want to stand in its way. I want to make it, I want to do whatever I can to support it as a piece to go out in the world. And that meant me not, when I sent it to producers, I didn't say, like, I want to direct this. I was like, what do you think of this movie?
Interesting.
And it's a lot of luck. And after, I don't want to paint the portrait of me writing a script and then I finished it and sent it in like producers attached themselves because that could be the narrative. But honestly, there was like many bad drafts to that script. There was like 5 or 6 just like terrible drafts. And I was like, this is not working. What's not working about it? Sending it to friends, refining, focusing at this. I would say the first couple drafts were like, I didn't have any humor in it. I didn't have the heist element in it. I was kind of denying my voice. I think a lot of people that come from comedy, because it comes easy to them, they tend to want to reject it because there's some kind of conflation of like, oh, it's easy, it must not be good. But it was really just what my voice is. So as soon as I went and did a pass where I started adding like the levity, the humor, my sense of humor specifically coming from the characters, not necessarily writing jokes, but writing humorous, like spin on if this is real, how would a character react to that and the absurdity of it? Because I love that. That's like my brand of comedy is absurdity treated with sincerity is something that I've just always,
nice.
It's like the formula, I think, for the best comedy.
Yeah.
So anyway, like I didn't want to stand in its way. And so I sent it out to producers and it's a lot easier to say, this is me as a writer. Let's find directors. Got in the hands of Boldelight, which they were just coming off the heels of Barbarian, which that's a whole other serendipitous like connection because I knew a friend who knew someone from Boldelight. And so when I was writing Companion, I was reading Barbarian and it was inspiring me because I was like the tonal shift in that movie, the halfway point, like switching from, the big monster reveal to Justin Long's character on the PCH. I was like, oh my God, like you could do anything in a script. And that really inspired me. So it's crazy that it came full circle and suddenly Bold Light read it and they were like, yes, they like within 24 hours of reading it, they attached themselves. They sent it to Roy Lee. He, within 24 hours after that, he attached himself, and then they sent it to Zach Kreger, and he was like, "Oh, I love this. I want to direct it." So within like a week of having finished that final draft, and the first producer I sent it to attached themselves.
Well, I mean, that's amazing in itself. But I mean, just going a little bit back to the personalizations and the comedy, because I think that's a really, really important point. When people sort of talk about comedy, they're often like, oh, how can we get a laugh out of this or make this a funny script? But what was really interesting there was the personalization side. I mean, that seems to me as an outsider what flipped this from being a script that people love and a script that people don't love, is that it sort of went from something that was maybe trying to sort of be something and didn't have that part of yourself in it. That because everyone in life, they have sad moments, they have happy moments, they have laughter. Laughter isn't just a genre; it's an authenticity. And it sounds like that sort of injection of authenticity, maybe amongst other things, were what sort of grabbed the producer sort of further down the line.
Yeah, and it felt right too. Once I started like injecting like that, the humorous side to it, it felt like, oh, okay, this like I knew the script wasn't working before that. It felt like a Black Mirror episode, like a bad Black Mirror episode. There was just nothing kind of interesting about it. It was just like kind of a straight line. And as soon as I started injecting like the humor into it, that's really when it started to take off. And it just felt like, okay, this is something that it's doing what I like. I should have known this immediately when I started writing this. Is like, this was supposed to represent my voice. So why was I denying my voice? Why was my first instinct to deny my voice? And it took an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize like, oh, I was denying my voice when I was trying to represent my voice. And then when I inserted that, very quickly it became everything just kind of like the planets aligned and everything like worked out.
And at what point did you start sort of showing your voices in I want to direct this, or even just being more open to that opportunity and I want to direct this, I want to do this at the right level, I'm the guy for the job? Yeah,
so I mean I had a game plan in mind. I like with Companion, if like like not knowing that it would get made, I just was hoping it would get sold. And so my plan was I have 3 ideas for 3 movies. I'm gonna write Companion. I'm probably not gonna be able to direct that. I'm gonna write this next idea. Probably not gonna direct that. But if these 2 things like hit it, like I will have the opportunity probably to direct this 3rd one. And so that was my game plan. So I don't know if I set this up, but Kreger had originally attached himself to direct this movie.
Zach Kreger, yeah.
And this is pre-Barbarian's release. And so, I had the opportunity, which was so valuable, to sit down with him and talk through the script and what, polishing it up and, making adjustments. And he pitched some jokes and that are in the movie and just made it better and better and better. And I think he sensed through our conversation that like I don't come at it as a writer solely. Like I want to make sure. I think it's just become years of just the heartbreak of seeing your script kind of get, not throwing anyone under the bus, but it just doesn't get made the way you imagined it to get made. So I learned a subtle art that I recommend all writers learn, which is direct on the page without directing on the page, which is don't say, as soon as you write, cut to an insert of 2 like ice cubes like landing in a glass, the director, you just said you're not going to get that shot. Like a director reading that is going like, he's not going to tell me how to direct this movie. Yes. But if you start with a little like, you write in little, I think every action sentence should essentially be its own shot. But if you say like, onomatopoeia, like clink, clink, 2 ice cubes fall into a glass, that's a subtle way of saying this is a close. The scene begins with a close up. And so I was like, because I was starting that, like I feel like I perfected the way of like one of the compliments I get when people read my script and see the movie, they're like, that's exactly how I imagined it as I was reading it. I was like, well, that was the intention of doing that. But I think Zach, like, noticing that it was directed on the page and our conversations and how protective I was of the material, because I was always going like, how are you going to shoot this thing? How are you going to shoot this thing? What are you going to do this? And I'm a big proponent of point of view, not necessarily like a literal point of view of like where you put the camera. Like, it doesn't have to be literally from the point of view of the from the character, but like, one of the things that always bothered me of having directors direct my writing is that not one director ever asked me whose moment is this, whose scene is this. And it's like, that's such an important thing. And because I would find scenes that like this, why did you shoot this, why is this sequence like this glamorous crane shot of like these two people dancing? This is not what that scene is about. This scene is about this guy who's sitting in the corner who's watching it, and we never got a shot from his perspective watching the girl of his dreams dancing with his arch enemy. Yeah, so like I would talk to him about the disappointment that I would have in those moments, and he's a big believer in like figuring out like not necessarily every scene has to be from someone's point of view, but there are key moments where it's like, well, whose scene is this? Are we with the person talking, or are we with the person listening? And so I think through those discussions, he may have realized that like I had a handle on the script that maybe he wouldn't have himself having, because he's a writer director himself. That I think he just realized like maybe I'd be better suited to step out of the way and produce it rather than direct it. And he's got a billion ideas. He had weapons, so it's not like he was like he was sacrificing anything. He had this amazing idea already, so it's not like he was like this tremendous sacrifice. But it was so insanely generous of him to not only suggest me as the director and believe in me, but he also, without me knowing, went to Baudelaire, went to Roy at Vertigo, and he got their permission to have me as a director. And I was so blown away by it. I was so gobsmacked by it that he said, "You want to direct it?" And I went, "I don't know." Like I didn't say yes. I didn't jump at it. I didn't jump at it purely out of fear. It just was like immediately I'm like, oh, I know how hard it is to direct a movie. Like I've been on set. It's incredibly stressful, and there's a billion questions thrown at you, and it's all triage, and everything's going wrong. And luckily, there's a lot of luck in the story. That, like, I was like, just give me 2 days to think about it. It's 2 days too long, in hindsight. But I listened to a podcast, and I wasn't seeking out anyone's, I wasn't seeking out any advice other than because I just wanted to kind of sit, just find it within myself. And I happened to pick a filmmaking podcast where a director was the writer director was talking about being in a position. He was asked if he wanted to direct a movie that he wrote. He said no out of fear, and he's always regretted it. And he was always on set going like, "Why I should have been the one directing it." And it was everything I needed to hear without seeking it out. And immediately called Zach up and said, "Yes, I'm sorry it took so long. I want to direct this movie. Thank you."
Oh, love that. And then let's jump straight, just if you don't mind, because I know there's so many steps here, but that moment while we're talking about the directing and that fear, the moment when you first stepped on set then of this film, and I love that moment. I don't know why. That first day, that first moment, everyone's excited, everyone's buzzing more than normal. It's so exciting. How was that for you? Can you describe it for our listeners as to what went through your mind?
Yeah, well, I mean, I highly recommend if you when you're talking with your AD and you're scheduling your shoot, like make your first day an easy day. You ease your way in. Like you don't want to do that party scene with like 20 people talking and multiple camera movements and having to get like coverage from for each character from every other character's perspective. Like that's just mind-numbingly hard. And so start with something very easy. So it'll build confidence. And so I had a great AD. She was Sienna Miller, who was fantastic at scheduling. And
not the actress.
did I say Sienna Miller?
Yeah,
Sienna Miller. Sorry.
Wow, she'd be a great script supervisor.
She just sat around.
Just ask her about acting as well.
That's hilarious. Sorry, Sienna. Oh my God, why did Sienna Brown? Right?
Okay, yeah, cool.
Sienna Brown. You know what? My brain is like, it can't be Sienna Brown because Sienna is also a type of brown, right? I just
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, Sienna Brown.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sienna Brown, fantastic AD. She was really good at scheduling, and I was like, let's start small. And so we shot the first scene in the movie so it's like grocery store scene. It's Josh meeting Iris for the first time. It's just two characters. We purposely didn't add any extras into it. We wanted to make it feel like it's otherworldly and doesn't, it's rooted in a very recognizable location, but something feels off. There's it's pitch black outside the window. There's no other extras in it. There's no cashiers. There's no other patrons. It's patrons. Yeah. So it needed to feel off. And so that was such a simple, first day.
It sounds simple, but at the same time, I mean, I suppose my perspective would be like, you're working with two fairly big actors, and this is like the chemistry moment that like makes or breaks your scene. And like, definitely, I think it makes way more sense to do that before like, the big scene with hundreds of people. But also like, what's going through your mind in terms of how to get that chemistry? Like, what sort of prep have you done with the two actors to get comfortable? Because I mean, they look like they've met for the first time and they're completely in love, which is a hard thing to sell, as actors and for you on first day as director.
Yeah, no, that's a great. I'm glad you bring that up because there was also a backup plan. Because the backup plan would have been, if it felt awkward and off, it still would have fit into the narrative. Like if you didn't buy them as being in love, you could use that as part of like genius, like a little like Easter egg for the movie to be like, why I didn't buy them as a couple, but luckily they're who's tremendous actor. We were able to talk about like the characters. Like we didn't have time to do rehearsals, but we had time to get to know each other. And Jack and Sophie are very lovely, very nice, very empathetic and humble people. Like I've never worked with two such, generous, nice, never complain, just like no egos. So they're like, a director's dream. But yeah, that was having that fallback was great, but I didn't need it. Like they just are, they're great actors. They sold it immediately.
They nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sophie's so good in Heretic as well, working with our boys Beckham Woods as well, who we know really well. So just I suppose now jump back a little bit from that moment that they say, you're directing. What did you then do as the director for preparation for the film, but also what did your producers help with? Is it greenlit at that moment? Is it, oh my gosh, drop everything else, this is all I'm doing, I'm thinking about shooting it, getting my cinematographer in and my cast? What was the next steps?
Yeah. So, I mean, there was a lot of sitting around and waiting because, you say, yes, I'm the director. And then it was just like crickets and just like, wait, nothing was happening. Yeah. And so like months were going by and there were a couple of things that worked in our favor. This was the end of 2022, I believe. Yes. One was Boulder Light had just set up a deal at New Line, Warner Brothers, who was a kind of a first look setup where they would make sub $10 million movies. And not necessarily, I don't know if you guys know what negative pickups are, but kind of like a negative pickup situation.
We just explain it for our listeners on the negative pickup.
Yeah, it's a weird word choice. It's outdated. It's a really weird word choice because it sounds like negative as in positive negative, but it literally means negative as in like a film negative. It's an old outdated term of like negative pickup meaning, a studio gives you, say, $10 million to make the movie and they have very little input in anything but maybe casting. But you make the movie and then you deliver the negatives to them. So it's like a negative pickup and it becomes their movie. So it's just kind of it's typically super low budget stuff. The bigger budget, you're not going to trust a production company to make a movie. without any oversight. But yeah, it's just a very kind of hands-off way of making a movie. It's handing a paycheck to a production company, having them make it, and then getting the movie. But I say negative pickup if situation because New Line was still involved in casting, and they still had notes on the script, and they still had notes on the editing, but it was very minor, and they were very collaborative. And as long as I gave them a reason why I did or didn't do something, they were very open to letting me kind of make the movie that I wanted to make. And so it's a dream situation. So yeah, so Boulder was in this position. The ink hadn't dried yet on the contract with New Line. So they hadn't they didn't want to immediately go here's a script. They were still waiting for the right time to bring the project to them. So we're just kind of sitting around. There's in November, December, and nothing's happening in Hollywood. And meanwhile, I'm taking that as if I'm not thinking about it realistically. I'm thinking about, oh, no one wants to make the movie. This is done. Nothing's going to happen. I had lunch with Roy Lee, the producer extraordinaire, amazing guy. Did all the, he started in taking American adaptations of J horror, like The Ring, and now he does the Lego movies and Godzilla, and billions and billions of dollars.
Late Night with the Devil, Strange Darling. Yeah, he's great.
He still he's a guy that pure cinema lover. He could just be making these big, huge budget movies like It. He made the It movies, but he loves movies, and Strange Darling is a $2 million micro budget movie, and so he still has a passion for telling original genre stories. But I had lunch with him, and he was talking about, he's like, Megan comes out in January. I wonder if that helps us or hurts us. And in my head, I'm like, what are you talking about? This movie is nothing like Megan. Why would that affect it? But sure enough, he was right. Megan comes out. It's a huge hit. And suddenly everyone's like, robots. We need more robots. What are these robot movies? It's not comparing my movie in the quality to these movies, but it's similar to Alien got greenlit because everyone wanted sci-fi movies after Star Wars, but because it was just the next sci-fi script on the stack
on the table.
Mine was the next robot movie on the stack, and suddenly it became a kind of a hot script, and because it became a hot script, and because it started getting interest in other some other studios were maybe we want to make this. Photolight's not Photolight. New Line's oh wait, what is this? And they read it oh, we love this movie. We want to do this. And it because it was a hot property, they didn't blink when I was brought up as the director, because it just became a package that they wanted. So I didn't have to, I didn't have to do the rigmarole. Yeah.
Genius director comes up with.
Yeah. So that, again, talking to anyone who makes a movie, I can't imagine there's not a healthy dose of luck involved. But yeah, I think more so with Companion.
And just going into the casting and also where you sort of pitch this movie, because it really does sort of fit into that moment of it's definitely a popcorn movie in one sense, but it's also very cerebral, it's very smart, and it's often very hard to get those kind of films right on one hand, and it's also very hard to find actors that are just right for that. So Sophie does such a great performance of that character, playing a really clever kind of robot, all the shifts in emotion and processing, but also being really charismatic and sort of engaging and natural, and Adam's a perfect sort of partner for that. What sort of conversations were had around all of those things?
Yeah. So every actor's involved, and there's its own story. The main one, Sophie, and Jack's involved. And Jack was the easiest get, and I thought that he was going to be the hardest, not him specifically, but getting an actor to want to play such a despicable character. I thought was going to be really tough. Who wants to play a toxic male
right now? Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
especially as he's a heartthrob as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But to his credit, we have the same agency, UTA, and his agents had slipped him the script before we even started casting. And so he'd read it and he loved it, and it got a meeting set up with me. And the way I write characters, I've been through the heartbreak of thinking of an actor as you're writing it and then not getting them. So I highly recommend don't doing that, because you're never going to get the person you want. So I try to write with like this kind of amorphous, like, no, I don't have actors in mind. So I try to keep that out of my brain as long as possible. So I didn't, like there were a lot of names thrown at me. And then Jack sat down with me, and he sits down, and we're at a coffee shop, and he's like nervous, and he's got this like boyish energy. I'm like, why are you the one nervous? Like, I'm the one that should be nervous. I'm meeting Jack Quaid, but he was so charming and likable. I was like, this is exactly what we need for Josh, because that's the tightrope we need to walk, which is he's saying, like, from the very beginning, he's saying awful things. He's telling a woman to smile and act happy. So we need to, even though no one's going to say that in a likable way, but he would say it. He said it in the most likable way, because you can. And I say this a lot, but I wanted someone with Jay Baruchel energy. I wanted someone that's like, you excuse their bad behavior because they seem doofy and oblivious, not because there's any intention behind it. And that's exactly how Jack plays it. He plays it as the doofy, I don't know any better boyfriend. And that like, immediately you just like the guy. And so as soon as I found out that he wanted to do it, as soon as we had that meeting and saw how nice he was, and I think we talked about Jaws for most of our meeting. So it just, like, I think a big part of casting is also, do I want to hang out with this person for 3 months? Because, especially this movie with a tiny cast, it's important.
It is.
And then Sophie was the opposite. I thought that it was going to be so easy to find an Iris, because there are, so many talented actresses that can nail this. And I hadn't really thought about, when we were doing the audition process, we gave them 3 scenes, one from the act 1, one from act 2, one from act 3, just to see if they could nail the trajectory. Because it's there's a lot of like you said, emotional shifts. And we found so many actors that could do the first half, the shrinking Violet, the docile, passive Iris. But then as soon as she's, empowered, you didn't really buy them as being, or the speech against, when she finally stands up against Josh, it just wasn't believable. And then the reverse is happening, where we would find actors that nailed the second half, and they're just empowering, and you're like, yes, you're fucking badass, this is great. But then you never bought them as the docile, passive Iris. And so, as soon as Sophie came in and she did a chemistry read with Jack, it was, like that cliche of like knowing right away that you have the person, and there's no other, it's not binary. It's not like one or the other. It's like you don't know it until you have it. And not to get too off topic, but there are a couple of times in filmmaking where I found with like acting and needle drops, if you're ever in a position where you're like, I can't decide between these 2 songs, or I can't decide between these 2 actors, you probably don't have the right one. Because if you did have the right one, it would be that that song choice would be like, it's this or nothing, or this actor, it's this or nothing. It's just weird that I was like, those are two times where I'm like, okay, this is the universe is telling me we haven't found the right person. And then Sophie,
And it's hard as well, because she's not like a massive framed person. She's not like massively muscular, yet she's completely convincing as being that character sort of later on in the movie, and that's a real. It's almost like a double strength, because she does it so convincingly, and it sort of works the android sort of things.
Yeah, everyone watched Boogeyman. There's a moment in Boogeyman, I think in the third act, where she like has to run, and when she starts, that was the moment I was like, oh. Fuck yeah. Like she like the way she was running, I was like, she's running like Tom Cruise. Like she's running like she's running like an action star. So she can turn it on when she needs to turn it on.
Oh, she's a badass. She's great.
Just in terms of calibrating that performance as as a sort of an artificial intelligence, how did you work with her on that? Because I think that's really good. I mean, it's an absolute top sort of tier performance in that element. I mean, you can play it very straight. It's that balance between being endearing and sort of smart in sort of general conversations, and also being aware that they are still a robot to some degree. So how did you sort of find that balance?
Yeah, I wish I could just say this. Like I whispered in her ear the perfect metaphor that encapsulated the emotionality of the moment. But she's just such a a tremendous actor that she always would nail it. I do know that I think you're probably talking about the one scene which she was so worried about, which is when she discovered she's a robot. Like the amount of emotional shift she does in that scene, and you shoot it all in one take from every angle, but you like even though it's separated by like a 2-minute flashback, we didn't shoot it that way. So you even have some more emotional shifts that she's doing on the back half of it. But she starts out scared and fearful and confused. Then she finds out she's a robot, and there's a little comedic element where she's in disbelief, and then discovering that her life is a lie and all of her memories are a lie, and like the disbelief turns into a little bit of anger and what's happening, and then it immediately turns into acceptance. And I think that's the saddest moment of the whole movie. Is she, I think any other movie would be like, that it would take the entire movie for her to accept that she's a robot. She accepts she's a robot immediately. And that she's like, that's okay if I'm a robot, but I can't stand the idea of losing you. And that's the tragic thing, when she's pleading with him, being like, I will do everything that it takes to like make this right, please. And then she finds out she can be shut down, and now turned back to fear, and the survival instincts like kick in. So if Sylvie wasn't going to be in the movie, it's because she would have rejected it because she was worried she couldn't do that scene. She was always like upfront, being like, I don't like this scene scares the shit out of me. I don't know if I can do it. I know she can do it, but you can't you can't convince someone like that they have the ability to do something that they don't think they have the ability to do. So just, you as a director, you just have to make them feel comfortable. Like that's it. It's just about making your actors feel as comfortable as possible so that they trust you, and they know that like you have their best interests in mind, and you don't direct them in a sense of like, it has to be this way. You just give them guardrails and say like, I will make sure you don't go too far in both directions, because you will look ridiculous. And I think that's why actors just are, so scared, is because it's a lot of trust to be like, I could look like a fool, if I'm not in the, if the wrong director is like, behind the camera. And so it's a combination of just a lot of things, but the magical ingredient is Sophie. Like she is it's like an indescribable charisma that I always bring up these two actresses, and I don't bring them up because I think she's like them. It's just that when you see them, you're like, who is this person? Jennifer Lawrence, when you first see her, you were like, yes, she is a movie star. Angelina Jolie, it's like a once in 10 years you see this person and you go, oh my gosh, like you have it. I don't know what it is, but you have it. I see it with Sophie.
I likened her to Florence Pugh earlier in a chat with someone else.
Yeah, another great example.
Natural, raw energy that just feels so alive. You mentioned trust there, and I think I totally agree. It's so important. The trust is so important. It has to come from the director. Let's talk about you working with your crew, your cinematographer, and what you say to them to gain that trust. We talk about this a lot in terms of when we direct. The crew around us have been working maybe 4 or 5 films, that year, maybe that month, depending if they're a grip or a Spark. How did you talk to them? How did you talk about the design of the film, from production design to makeup, costume? Would be lovely to know.
Yeah, I mean, you're filtering it all through. I mean, you really want to have like a simple, definable directive that you give them all. That's like, it's loose enough that they can bring in their own ideas, but it's also like it's specific enough that it gives them like yeses and nos to questions that they don't have to ask me. They can be like, oh, this won't fit in the vision of the movie because of this. And the way that I filtered everything is through, like, I don't want this to feel like a sci-fi movie. The sci-fi is it's just an extra like onion layer. It is not the core of this movie. This is a relationship drama at its core. Like I don't want like screens everywhere, and like I don't want that Janusz Kaminski like kind of like ethereal, like blurry, like AI look that all those movies. Like I don't want it to look like Minority Report. I'd rather it look like Marriage Story. And so when you give all your department heads that advice, suddenly they're like, okay, this is a grounded story. It's not heightened. My favorite, and I love the collaboration. I love when, someone comes in with like an idea that's like, that fits in with what the story is. Like, those are my favorite conversations. And I don't know anything about makeup. I don't know anything about wardrobe, like I know what works and what I like and what I don't like, but I'm not going to tell them like what to do. But my favorite example of this was, I think on day 2 or day 3, we were shooting Iris in the shower, where she steps out of the shower and she wipes the window down and looks at herself and does smile, act happy at the window, the side of the mirror. Has to smile and act happy. And Sasha Grossman, tremendous makeup artist, comes up and she's like, what does her makeup do here? Is it running? I'm like, I don't know. Like, what do you think? And she's like, well, be interesting if it's not makeup at all, but it's baked into her skin. That's it. That's great. That's amazing. That fits in with the reality of it. We never have to see her putting makeup on. She always has perfect makeup, no matter how when she's running through the woods. Like, that gave her direction for the rest of the movie. It fit in with what the story is. That's a nice little Easter egg. I texted her after one of the focus group screenings. Someone in the audience, a woman in the audience, said, I thought it was a mistake that our makeup didn't run in the shower. And then I realized she's a robot. Like, Sasha, someone figured out the makeup thing. It's like the greatest feeling ever. And Sasha's like, yay. So that's the stuff that, like, you have to have a reason. It's so hard to direct a movie. And you have to have a reason to get up in the morning. That's like, other than a cup of coffee, like, that energizes you. And those conversations, like, keep me going. The people that care about the movie want to make it better, want to strengthen it. And as long as it's all filtered through that, the idea of what's the story, what's the universe, how do we add to it? Yeah.
Fantastic. Just maybe a last question to sort of go through. Like, what was the hardest bit for the movie? I mean, that could be the shoot, or maybe figure things out in post. It would just be interesting to know what your first real big experience doing feature film making.
Yeah, it was definitely a shooting day. It's so, we didn't talk about the SAG strike, but we shot half of the movie and then a SAG strike hit directly halfway through. It was a 6-week shoot and it hit 3 weeks into our shoot. And so we had to pause for 5 months and put everything down and come back later. And we had this big day scheduled where we were going to shoot the cop scene, the Hendrix side of the road cop scene. We were supposed to shoot it obviously in the summertime in upstate New York, and it was scheduled based on summer light, which you get 12 hours of sunlight in upstate New York. And then we come back 5 months later, we got really thinking about it and keep the same schedule. And suddenly you realize, oh, dude, like, we have 8 hours now of sunlight. And there's 3 stunts in that scene, and we're shooting in one day. It's like the stunt woman having to, kick out the window and jump out of the car. And then you have to have the coordination of the car coming around, which sounds easy, but it's now with like someone, you have to reset that car every time you want to redo it. Then you have Patrick coming in from behind and smashing Hendrix's face, which that's a whole stunt. You have a stunt, you have a dummy, you have a stunt actor and blood effects and blood is splattering on Patrick. And then you have the third stunt, which is Patrick chucked her down as she's running away. And you have to have a pad out. And you have to have the coordination of the stunt woman has to fall down like on the right beat, and the sun, you can literally see the sun starting to set behind it, and we have we're scrambling to do that. And not only do we have those 3 stunts, but it's Sophie speaking German, and so we have a German a translator that's having to make sure that she like nails the German. And it's freezing cold tonight, because you're shooting the movie in summertime and it's 95 degrees and everyone is wearing skimpy outfits because you're like, I want them to be as comfortable as possible. So let's like have as much skin exposed so they just feel good. Now you're shooting 5 months later and it's 45 degrees out and they have to wear the same outfits, and you're apologizing and being like, oh, Sophie, I'm so sorry that you're wearing that outfit now. And there's heaters off screen. Like as soon as you're done with the take, she's running off and you can see the actor's breath. And so we're like we're going to have to take it out the VFX later. The VFX guy is like they're scrambling, being like, what can we do? What's going to cost too much money? So that day, doing all that in 8 hours, like I feel like I took probably a year off of my life, because like my heart was racing the entire time. And yeah, so that's my answer. That was that was very stressful. And I still look at that scene, and people love that scene, but I just think about all the coverage that that I wanted to get for that we weren't able to get.
What have you learned that you're going to take to your next directing film? If you want to direct another, I feel like you will.
I do.
Good.
Yeah, I do want to direct another. I mean, I've learned so many things. Like I don't even know like pinpoint one. There's like a billion things that I've learned about making movies. Trying to think of like on the top of my head. Gosh, just want to start over again and make another one. I just. Yeah. You never know. Like I guess that confidence of being like, okay, well, this scene's going to be easy to do, and that's always the scene that's the toughest. You never know where an obstacle is going to come from, and just I get, you know what it is. It's the comfort in knowing it'll all get figured out and not having to stress too much about it. And a big thing you have to learn as you're directing a movie is that it's so much compromise. It's never going to not be compromised. It's never going to be the movie that's in your head. And that first week of directing was like, I would go back to the hotel room and be like, it's not the movie that's in my head. Like, what am I doing wrong? And as long as you embrace the idea that it will never be the movie that's in your head, but maybe that's a good thing because it could be something else. And if you're comfortable with that, and if you are open to, collaboration and discovery of new ideas, and don't be so stubborn about what's in your head, and just be a little looser, it can be fun and fulfilling, and a better experience overall. Yeah.
That's amazing. Great quote as well. Thank you for that. Congratulations on Companion.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really enjoyed the movie.
Really brilliant achievement.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Really, like I didn't know going in that this was your first, if you like, and it's really impressive. So well done, and I can't wait to see your next one.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Best of luck with the movie.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
We'll keep telling everyone to go and watch it.
Exactly. Yeah,
please. And if they can avoid the trailer. But I feel like I've already like spoiled it in this. We talked about it already. Yeah, I mean, like the poster spoils it. So whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just that perfect kind of movie where you want to watch something that's really fun, but also really smart, and it just ticks both boxes at once. It's like a great sort of movie night with your friends or something. So
yeah, exactly that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, I imagine in a cinema it will just be a riot. It'll just be brilliant. Yeah. It'll be brilliant. So yeah, amazing. Good. Well, again, thank you, buddy. All the best, Drew.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. See you later.
And we're back. That was Drew Hancock chatting with myself and Dom Lenoir. Companion is a brilliant companion piece for you and your companion.
Am I your Dom-panion?
I didn't do it, did I?
No. Well, I did, so that's right.
Yeah, you just did it now, didn't you?
I did do it, yeah.
I suppose you are. Yeah, we go to cinema together. You're my Dom-panion. Yeah. And if you have a Dom-panion in your life, dear listener, go see Companion with them. It's fun. You'll enjoy it. Did you like that? That was good, wasn't it?
It's not bad.
Thanks. Right, next up.
We can just leave them in Dom-panionable silence. That's the silence.
We have responsible for shaping, I suppose, the rhythm, the pulse of Companion, the editors that brought Drew Hancock's vision to its final breathtaking form. It is Brett Bachman and Josh Ethia. They have an amazing eye for detail, these two. We should list off some of their credits because they work together on this but separately. You'll find out in the episode. Let's not spoil it for our listeners because it's kind of really cool. Brett Bachman was the editor for Pig, for Mandy, for some of the episodes of The Fall of the House of Usher, and Josh is the editor for Orphan, First Kill, Gretel and Hansel Don't Move, which was out on Netflix very recently, which was fan-bloody-tastic. And they join forces here pretty much with their amazing eye for detail, and I feel like they've created like a masterclass in suspense and pacing, and they will be sharing their insights and unique challenges of editing this thriller with you very shortly. In fact, really shortly, because anything more we want to say before we get to them?
Nothing to add.
Here it is. This is myself and Dom, and we will finish off the podcast at the other side of this fantastic and quite thrilling interview with the editors of Companion, Josh Ethia and Brett W. Bachman.
Is that some Philips Hue in the background or something similar as well with the mood lighting?
Mood lighting's nice.
Oh no.
Yeah. Whereas Brett's got posters in the background. We've got Mandy in there, and
Movies nice
you've
props.
worked on. Yeah,
Looks like some kind of saber.
It's a replica from the movie.
Super.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's my little memorabilia wall.
Little den. Have you edited from that room a few times?
I have, yeah. I did. I'm finishing up a Dev Patel movie right now called Rabbit Trap that I did here. This is like a new structure. Come to think of it, it's like my little backyard converted garage. So I've only had it for about a year. Haven't done a whole lot back here yet, but hopefully more in the future. Yeah. A lot of the shows will have me like go off site. I did Companion. Josh and I did Companion like in Burbank and then downtown Hollywood. Hard Eyes, a show I finished up earlier this year, was all like in South Pasadena. That was really cool. It was like right around the corner from where the Michael Myers house is.
Oh, wow.
And you have like a farmer's market that was like right outside this facility, like a little bespoke mom and pop shop.
Now we're talking.
Now we're talking.
Very, very cute.
That is so cute.
Do you guys have like a big editing, like just as a quick sort of mini poll? Because I love to have a big screen, like massive screen. I like to have a keyboard. I like to have a proper mouse. But I see so many like editors these days, like just on a laptop, and they're just using the touchpad, and they're so quick. Mechanical keyboard. There we go, Josh. Josh, just like me. But what about you, Brett? What's your preference?
What do I got here? I got a 2-monitor setup. I got a little like smaller TV right here that you can't see. Got just like a little Bluetooth keyboard, Bluetooth mouse, and then what you can't see off the side is like a 55-inch and a couch for folks if they decide to come on over. But every job's different. Like when we go to job, like all the furniture and like all the equipment, it's rentals. And so it's kind of contingent upon like, what does production want to pay for? Are we going to get a 5-1 setup? Are we going to get a 3-1 setup? How big can we go? On Hard Eyes, my last movie, I just straight up asked the rental company for the biggest OLED they had. I think they wheeled in like a 75-inch TV. It's like the biggest TV I've ever seen.
Oh, it's amazing. That's great. Me and Dom were just chatting a second ago of how much we loved Companion, and it just drew you in and was just kind of wonderful, which is just one of those films where you just want to tell your mates about it. So I can't wait for it to come out so I can just go, you've got to watch Companion. I've
been telling a couple of people already. Yeah.
It's one of those you go, Companion's really good, you're going to have to see it. How did you get involved in the first place, and was this the first time you two had worked together as an editing duo?
Yeah, we've known each other as colleagues and friends for a few years. This is the first time directly we've had the fortune of working together. We have a shared connection in the producers, Boulder Light, JD and Raphael. Josh, I think you edited one of their first films. Is that right?
Yeah, they were, I think they were like 19 or 20 years old. I worked on a film with them called Contracted back in, I think it was 2013.
And I did the vigil with them, I think in 2018, 2019. And that was the genesis of the project for me. I received a text from Raphael one day saying, and I had heard about the announcement. They had gone to the trades with the announcement about it, saying that we have this new project coming up called Companion. Would you be interested in reading? Mm-hmm. And it was one of the strongest scripts I had read in recent memory. It was grounded, character-driven, but really compelling, a lot of fun, had these great tonal pivots. Replied immediately saying that I would love to meet on this. I think I sat down with lunch with Drew just a few days later, immediately felt like there was a connection there. Mm. And a few weeks later, heard the thing was greenlit and they were going.
And how did you end up doing this kind of symbiosis of editing? And first off, like, how did you end up editing together? And also, how did you work out what the process would be like in terms of, okay, we're each going to do 50% of the scenes and then the other person's going to look over it, or I'm going to do the first half, you're going to do the other half? Because that's an interesting thing to sort of figure out as well.
Well, Companion was a really interesting just post-production and post-production process because it was a film that was shut down because of the SAG strikes and the writer strikes. We proceeded to shoot in the summer. We were about halfway through production. Us being a New Line production, we shut down. And we had about, at this point, it was just me on the project. And I had about, we were shooting relatively in a linear format. So I had about, give or take, the first 45 minutes of the movie. And anyone that has ever worked on a rough cut or worked on an early version of this movie will tell you, you can't really have an informed opinion of the movie with just half the material. So Drew and I were able to kind of sit down and work on this half of the assembly for a few weeks. But there wasn't really a sense of continuing after, I think, 2 to 3 weeks after we'd been shut down, just because we were just kind of burning cash at that point. And I was like, what can we do? So we went on hiatus. I received word several months later, as the film is gearing back up after the strikes have been resolved, and get a phone call saying, we're coming back up. Are you interested in joining? And I said, yes, of course. There is a big development I need you to be aware of. I am having twins. My wife at that point was several months pregnant. So I can come back. I would love to come back. But I would need to leave around probably week 6 of director's cut for paternity leave. And to my surprise, they were like, hell yeah, come back. We'll figure it out when you come back. And Josh was the first person, and really the first person I thought of that I was going to submit as a candidate to take over. Very fortunately, Drew and him got a little, I'll let Josh, you speak to this, but made me very happy to see that it was a good fit.
Yeah, it was probably, it was right at that point in the process where you guys had started trimming it down, where it was just starting to take shape. They had the full movie, and they had shown some folks. I think the same week I watched it, you had another handful of folks watch it. And then I came in, I spent a week sitting behind Brett as we were getting constant updates from his wife about the twins. and then had to just like switch over on a Monday morning and take over. But yeah, it was just starting to take shape. So I feel bad. I feel like I robbed Brett of all the fun of like looking at something and then taking out all the bits and doing all the stuff that we really love to do. But thankfully he got some of that when he came back after the boys were born.
Yeah. I was really fortunate that I was invited back like after the 6-week paternity leave. So I was able to participate in like, I think 1 or 2 weeks of editorial while we were like officially locking the cut with New Line and Warner Brothers, and then got to participate. I mean, we both did like in the mix process and the DI and wrapping the thing together. But all in all, like a really smooth handoff.
That's really interesting. I always must find that. I don't know. There's something about that must be kind of quite nice, Josh, where you're sort of coming into something that's kind of already not polished, but it's not just there you go, here's a load of files. It's kind of like, oh, there's something I can see. There's a tone, there's a feel. I know where this is going. And Brett's already thought about the next stages and stuff. So just talk us through that for you as an editor and how you sort of went, okay, what is this nicer, or do you prefer the sort of getting it from the beginning? What of that worked for you as an editor?
I mean, every job is always different. You always got to be ready to do something different. There's always somebody who wants to work in a different way, directors that are incredibly present in the editing room, or directors that never even want to come into the editing room, or taking over for a previous editor, however it is. But on this one, it was so great because Brett and I have known each other for so long, and we're such fans of each other's work that so often I would just be, sitting in the cutting room sort of by myself going, I wonder why that's, and I just like stretch out a shot just to see what's going on. And it's like immediately apparent why that cut was made the way that it was. And I just go, undo, put it back the way it was. Like I don't have to explore this. I don't need to go looking because I know that somebody has already done that, and that, they've done that very intelligently. So I'm just let's just move forward. It helps to cross some of that stuff out. And this was certainly the first time I'd done something like this. I'm really glad that it was with Brett. Usually when I come onto a movie, it's because there's like a problem with the previous editor, or somebody had to leave, and there is no sort of back and forth. It's just a handoff and, go with God, do the best you can. So this was so much nicer because even though he was incredibly busy, obviously with his family, we were able to like send him cuts and invite him out for screenings, because we had started doing preview screenings for New Line. We started to test the film. We had a couple of test screenings in Burbank, and on the lot of Warner Brothers. So Brett was still able to be involved in all that, as he was watching me sort of just like, manhandle his cut while he was out of the room. But yeah, it was incredibly freeing to know that he had already done that work. Brett is no slouch. He's an incredible editor. So going on and looking at his timelines and looking at those bins and seeing them exactly the way that they have to be, and very much filled out with sound and music, and just getting to do the fun part, which is just to play. Like I said, I just continually feel guilty to have been on the movie because it was such a joy to do. It was almost like second nature too. It's like I fell right in with the entire crew, the same way that as soon as Brett came back, he fell in with everybody. We had such a great environment on the film. It was amazing. It was truly incredible.
I think a key factor of all of this was, of course, was Drew Hancock, our writer director. I mean, this could have been a really difficult process. I think Drew not had such a keen vision and a keen sense of what he was building towards. So by the time I was leaving the project and I was handing the reins over to Josh, I think he had there's a pretty strong sense of what he was looking for the movie to be. But it's also he's one of those directors that is very open to ideas, very open to collaborating, very open to suggestions. And so him being able to have some being flexible, but being open, but also having a strong sense of what he was looking for, I think made this thing as smooth as it was.
And what were some of the sort of the shifts? Because, Giles and I think you both sort of mentioned tone earlier. I mean, it goes from a very smart, well thought out, sort of Android style storyline, which is really sort of going into the psychology, and then it's like a friendship thing, and then it sort of shifts into a thriller, and then it goes into kind of horror thriller for a little moment, and then it kind of flips back into the science fiction again, and then there's comedy moments in there as well. And all the while it's managing to be funny and find these different beats. I mean, how was it sort of trying to hit all of those in the editing process, and how much did it maybe change from how it initially sort of been assembled to how you ended up towards the end of the director's cut?
I'm glad you touched on that. That's easily my favorite part of the movie, these tonal pivots. And I think, Josh, you'd agree with me that massaging this tone, I think, was the biggest component of the editing process that we were further dialing in.
Absolutely.
It's certainly the thing that I gravitated towards the most when I read the script. I found it intense and compelling, suspenseful, but darkly funny. And in one of these initial conversations I had with Drew before we even started shooting, the thing I really wanted to narrow in on was his idea of tone. How did this movie emotionally, how should you feel? And the thing was, the script was incredibly funny, but also quite dark at times. And I remember asking him, like, on a sliding scale of silly or funny, like, where do you see this movie from like 0 to 10? And Drew was like, I see this movie as a negative 100 silly. Like, the initial vision of this movie was not a comedy. Even though it was a very funny script, I think he always had the preliminary version of the movie he had in his head was something that was a straight thriller. When we started shooting the movie, I took that into mind, and it affected how I was looking at scenes. It affected how I was choosing dailies. It affected how I was building and these initial assemblies and these initial scenes. But of course, you have, Harvey Guillen, and you have Lucas, and you have the Rupert Friend, and the ensemble of the actors that we have. The stuff that was coming in was hilarious and really funny. And I found myself often having to kind of pull back on a lot of that stuff, knowing of where Drew was attempting to go. And so I mentioned earlier about those first like 45 minutes of production of the movie that we had before production was shut down. The early version of that movie was pretty dry in its sense of tone. It was, we were going for something pretty cerebral and more science fiction leaning, without a lot of those kind of flourishes and lightness. And that's what we had basically when editorial closed. It wasn't until months later that I got a phone call from Drew saying that, hey, we're coming back. By the way, I have a new vision of this movie. I have something in my head that is floral and feminine and feels like a 1950s melodrama mixed with all these other cerebral science fiction thriller elements. What do you think about that? And I said, I think it sounds really, really cool. And I think that is matching, I think, what your actors are giving you. That is very fun and entertaining. And I think it will be a really good fit. And once we got back into the editing room and started to kind of re-attack scenes and reevaluate footage that previously had been in the cutting room floor, the movie took on a sudden lightness and it became a lot more fun. The biggest, one of the strongest things that happened was our music supervisor, Rob Lowry, coming on and the addition of needle drops. Josh, you relish in these things. I think you could talk about this, but the importance of that and how we are commanding tone just by utilizing these things.
Also, by the time that I came on, Rishi Girway, our composer, was already working, and he was doing that sort of like almost like John Bryan by way of PTA sort of like score for the thing, almost like something like in Punch Drunk Love. So we were mixing that with source music, which some of which was already there and working like absolutely gorgeously. And then I'm sure you guys will notice, like towards the end of the film, it really dips straight into thriller territory. There's a whole giant section where it just becomes a thriller, and Brett and Drew had been trying, and they were using music from things like Quiet Place and like this very big sort of like dark music over that section, because that is absolutely what you should try to do for that kind of stuff, is to lean into what it's doing visually. And there was always, we just had like a Post-it note on the wall with that scene with like a little marker on it, like maybe there's a perspective here, maybe there's something, different. And like Brett was saying, I just opened up a bin of music that he had been sent by Rob and sort of already combed through, and just found this track by the Turtles, and put it over a deeply thrillery section that would normally be like horns and brass and bombastic and drums and darkness, and instead it has this turtle song over it. And so it sort of like leans into what the movie is doing, but also stays in the realm of this voice that Brett and Drew were constructing, of this sort of like kitschy, old timey, but sort of modern and hip tone that the movie had, and putting that over an android, basically running like the Terminator and shooting at people was, like a real stroke of like, wow, that's really working now. That's fantastic. And then of course it switches right back into thriller mode as, he gets his hands on Iris. But yeah, we were playing with that stuff all the way throughout. And then we had the ending where we, which I won't spoil for anybody, where, people sort of ride off into the sunset. And we tried so many different pieces of music. We threw everything we could at the wall. Even like jokingly one day I put like Smash Mouth All Star over the ending just as a joke. And but we still watched it. We watched it all the way down just to see if it was working. But ultimately went back to the track that Brett had been using previously, and it was like, okay, cool, we know that that's the one because we've stress tested everything else, and we know that we're still in love with this one piece of music. And so it was using those needle drops and those source cues to try to sort of strengthen the voice of the movie that was very much there in the writing, very much there in the cutting, very much there in the performance.
Drew had a vision of this movie, of this new idea that was, you look at the costume design, it even kind of feels timeless in a way. There's all these 1960s influences in the costume. And I think he wanted to apply a similar idea to the needle drops as well. So we ended up, him and Rob were pulling all these 1960s love tracks, and they really served an important role to counter a lot of these scenes. They had a warmness, a certain subjectivity to all the scenes of Iris, and yet later on in the movie they add a somewhat sinister quality when they're directly countering a lot of the darkness that you're seeing on screen. But we found that they were just like, more often than not, like this really fun linchpin that would kind of still connect these individual segments and scenes to this, reminding the audience like this is a fun experience. Like yes, it is dark at times, but this is a movie that's built to entertain you.
Well, I love that, and I love the way you described that. It sounds like it was really fun to work on, but also very collaborative. I want to touch on, and for our directors, producers out there, and editors listening, what happens when it doesn't go well? What happens when there is something that you go, there isn't enough footage, or the director wants to go a different way, or you feel... Talk us through some of those moments where you go, okay, this is what we did, this is how we managed to make things work. Or it'd be really interesting to know, because I think a lot of people, when they make a film, they just go, oh great, we're going to just going to edit it and put it together. But there's so much goes into editing. So much. We talked about this last one of the episodes recently. It'd be really interesting from your side now, especially coming from the indie world, both of you, and the work you've done over the time, and coming into Hollywood and back again and back up again in terms of all the projects you've both done. It'd be really interesting to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah. There's a quote I love. I think it's from Thomas Edison, where he says, I didn't fail 1,000 times inventing the light bulb. Inventing the light bulb was a step that required 1,000 steps. And the same principle applies to editing 100%. Like, this is a job where you can fail 99 times out of 100, where the scene is not giving you the emotional response that you want, but you find that one version and that's it. If the director likes it, the studio likes it, tests well, it's in the movie. And Companion certainly had some of those sequences as well, where, especially with a movie like this that is modulating tone and we're doing some stuff that feels exciting and bold. A lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that just did not make its way into the movie. There's a critical beat at the end of Act 1 where a character dies and there's a plot revelation about 25 minutes in. And I think we re-edited this sequence by the lake. It's an intercut sequence. We worked on this for weeks to try and find the right tempo, the right momentum, and also the audience, of course, is putting one and one together. They're guessing, they're assuming what's happening. So how do we speed up that sequence to kind of surpass their anticipation? And fortunately, after weeks and days of revising this critical sequence in the movie, every single time we tested the film, friends and family screenings, smaller screenings, recruited screenings, this particular beat was the favorite moment of the movie. And that's just through the process of re-editing. It's the process of, understanding your audience, listening to them when they're telling you that either something is working really well, or vice versa, they wanted something a little bit more out of it, or they're guessing what's going to happen. So how do you accelerate the edit to stay ahead of them a little bit?
I think it's really interesting what you did with that sequence as well, because, without sort of going into spoilers, you kind of trim down the bit you're expecting to see as an audience. And then actually you almost take the moment to the next scene where it's a reveal. And then I think, if I remember correctly, there's also another section of it that is like a little bit of a flashback that gets played a little bit later on. So it's actually taking away the expectation of what you're going to see and what has happened. And it changes the point of view that you hear about the event, because it's from other characters' perspectives when you actually see the sort of the aftermath, and it completely changes so many story and character elements by flipping it out into that really clever order.
I agree, and I think so much of that is just the cleverness of Drew's script, of him working and being so passionate about making a film that is grounded in Iris's, Sophie Thatcher's character, her POV. So you're experiencing these events in live time with her, and so much of these what engages you about the movie is that she sells this character 100%. The charisma is oozing off the screen with her, and you feeling these pivots in line with her. I think were huge to you leaning forward and participating emotionally in the movie. She's selling it. How do we also stay a little bit ahead of the audience, so we're not explaining things to them, but they are doing the mental math themselves. Never tell an audience 1 + 1 = 2. Give them one here, give them one later, and let them do the mental gymnastics and the arithmetic themselves. And that's just going to make them lean forward. It builds intrigue, it builds suspense, and I think it respects their intelligence as well.
The cool hook about that scene is that you introduce the audience to an incredibly threatening situation, and that at the moment that you feel it multiplying, you cut, and Harvey Guillen is talking about how much weed he smoked last night and how full he is. And it's such a weird subversion in what feels like, especially for this film, because it's going to go somewhere dark, it's going to go somewhere threatening. So as soon as it starts to, you bring it right back to that, like the gag, the funniness. And then even when the character is revealed, it's sort of like off screen. They sort of like amble in out of focus in front of you, and suddenly there's a development, and you don't know what happened in between. So it's a real delicate balancing act, and Brett had probably done, you must have done 4 or 5 versions of that scene before I came on.
I think close to 12.
Yeah. And then when I was on, that was the one where it's like, cool, we love this. We feel like it is working now. It's not a priority. And it was like, okay, cool. And then after we had gotten through enough of the film and started testing and we're feeling good about it, it was like, let's take a fresh look at that. Not completely fresh, but let's look again at what our ins and outs are, because the ins and outs of that scene and how the audience is given the information are so important to their enjoyment of that beat. And that was basically what most of my job was while I was on the film, because Brett had done such a great job exploring all that. So I get to come in and just sort of move around some ins and outs, trim this here, sort of take a fresh look at this. And it's great because, like Brett was saying, like as soon as you land it exactly where it's supposed to be, like all of those 15, 20, 30 failures before, they're not failures anymore. They're just steps on the way to success. So it's like, once you get there, it's fantastic.
And that's just the editing process too. I mean, the romantic notion that like, oh, we found it, week one of director's cut is it's a bit of a fantasy, especially when you're putting up in front of an audience. And we had the fortune of like bringing people into the editing room. We had like these little micro screenings over at Photocam where we were editing the film, where we would plop two people on a couch and then we'd watch down the movie, and these would be trusted individuals and friends, and listen to their direct feedback and make changes off of that stuff. And then just regularly doing this. So by the time, I was on my paternity leave, I think we were stepping into this bigger friends and family cut. I think that was like your second or third week. Wasn't that right, Josh?
Yeah, I think it was like a week and a half in, we were showing about 20 people, and I was like still getting my sea legs, like trying to make sure that I hadn't ruined anything.
Yeah, I mean, and you listen to the response, you read the questionnaires, you don't do every note, you try and find either the note behind the note or the summary of what the audience is kind of telling you. But kind of back to what I said, like you could work on something 13, 14 times, and you find that 15th version really does it for you. Trust that like this is working, and avoid the tendency to go back and really nitpick, unless you have a good reason to do so. Of course, these things are fluid, modular, and they you change. They always have ripple effects. You change a little character beat, or you open up a moment where you get a specific insight that could have ramifications or a ripple effect. 20 minutes down the movie. So you're always trying to be cognizant of that stuff. But there's I think a tendency to go back and just nitpick and re-edit on every single show I think Josh and I have done. And you have to be confident that we're the worst person because we have sometimes the least amount of objectivity, even more than the director at times. Because we're watching this thing days and days and days and days.
Yeah, so just before we wrap up, what little bit of advice for editors working with directors, maybe first-time directors or directors who, have got a certain vision? It'd be really interesting to hear what you think, advice for. I think let's go with first-timers, because I think that's really interesting.
My biggest advice would be to understand that you're trying to develop your voice as an editor or as any department head, and you want to bear that in mind and try to carve your own path yourself creatively with your tastes. But you also want to bear in mind that every department head on the movie is hired by a producer. They're working with a director, and you want to be cognizant of that relationship so that you can build out these longer relationships and not start to think about things like, oh, well, this is just the movie, and start to think about, Brent and I have worked with certain directors like 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And it's about having that sort of like long game of developing that voice together and being someone that they know that they can depend on. And also, this is specifically editorial, I guess, just because we're allowed to, we're the only department on set that's allowed to figure it out over the course of like 10, 16 weeks. But, there's no such thing as a bad idea. Just try stuff. If something makes sense to you, give it a shot and see how it works. And usually if enough of those will lead you in the right direction.
That's really interesting. Thank you, Brett.
Bouncing off of that, but relationships and trust are key. I received a great piece of advice from Sally Menke when I was in film school, and she was Tarantino's like legendary longtime editor. I kind of asked a joking question one day when she was doing a panel at the school, and I was like, "What do you do when your director is just wrong?" And as I was like 23 years old, being a bit of a dick. And she kind of pounced on that question immediately. And she was like, your director cannot be wrong. Your director, you are there in support of this individual. You are there to assist, to help, to collaborate. You can have disagreements. You can propose another idea, but you should never take a confrontational approach with this individual. You are meant to be a helper. You are there to push and promote. And so it really helped to kind of reconfigure my personality and the way I look at engaging in these unique relationships that we have with directors and of course producers and everybody else. But I think approaching the job as being a collaborator, being a helper, being a source of positivity in the editing room will go a long way to enduring trust and promoting. Hopefully, like Josh mentioned, sometimes we work with these directors, 3, 4, hopefully more movies. I think that'll go a long way in building these long relationships.
And I suppose a passionate persuader, at most. I mean, that's not a bad thing, but never someone that's causing confrontation. I think that's the key. Yeah.
Exactly. And that just has no place, I think. And I mean, an editing room is much like a writer's room in the sense where you're brainstorming, you're tossing out ideas. You never want to be the guy that just shoots down stuff immediately because it just betrays kind of the energy and the idea of this. And these, like, Companion was a film that was, I don't want to say built in the editing room because it betrays a lot of the intelligence and the work that Drew put into the script, which was, like I said, one of the strongest scripts I've ever read. But a lot of these tonal pivots, and a lot of these, we certainly calibrated the film in the editing room, and that was largely due in part to, I think, Drew's his passion, his flexibility, and his trust in Josh and I.
Thanks so much to you both. It's been a really fascinating chat, and it's a wonderful movie. So thank you very much.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Bye. What more could you want from another bumper The Filmmakers Podcast? Thank you for listening. Do go like and subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe, please subscribe.
Subscribe.
I mean it now. Just go on your phones, wherever you are. Just do it. Try and get us over 1,000. Honestly, to monetize, just what a joy that would be. Right? Dom could stop complaining.
Finally stop living in the dustbin.
I could get hair plugs.
Giles could get like an adult-sized bed because he's too tall to sleep. He's in the baby cot. He's in two baby cots that are like sandwiched together because he's just can't fit into a normal bed.
That's weird. No, I've got that piece of wood between, yeah. So your back's, it hurts every night, but I deal with it. That's why I've got this ulcer on my tongue. That very reason. So yes, you have been amazing that you've got this far in your lives, generally.
Survived another episode of the Filmmakers Podcast.
Which says a lot because it's tough these days to survive podcast. Let's just go on to Dom and Giles' film term of the week. I'm not going to play the jingle. Dom's just going to sing it. Ready? And go.
Dom and Giles' film term of the week.
You've never listened to it, have you?
No. I actually haven't.
Wow, that's amazing because it was nowhere near. Everyone's gone, that's not correct, but I preferred yours.
Okay.
So
I want to listen to it now, but I've got to search through the episodes and get through the boring waffle at the start.
That's what everyone else is doing now. They're skipping just to this moment. They want to know. Okay, all right. Film term of the week. This is where we do a film term that Dom either does or doesn't know, and we discuss what it is and why you should know.
Generally, I don't.
Generally, he doesn't. And it's actually really hard to find new film terms. However, I have one this week for you, Dom, and this week's film term of the week is hot set. What does the term hot set mean on a film set? Oh my God, have I got you again? Like MOS last week, right? Can you remember, please, what MOS means?
Oh, MOS is something. It started as WOS and then it changed into MOS, and it's basically when you're not recording sound on set.
Yeah, without sound, and it changed to without sound because a German filmmaker kept saying it. That was last week's. Dom didn't know it, but now he does, which is great. I'm glad you're learning. So, hot set. More to teach you, clearly. What does hot set mean?
It's basically, I think it's to do with like stunts and props, isn't it? Where you don't want to like move anything or break things. Basically, like there's valuable props or consumables that you don't want to have someone just wander in and mess up.
Close to the answer you are. It means everything's set up and ready to go for filming, so you don't touch it, or the art department will literally add you to their shit list.
Rip your arms off, and they've done it before, and they'll do it again.
It's a hot set. There'll be a sign on it saying hot set, and the hot set basically means you do not sit on the chair, you do not go near the food, the computer, whatever it is there is all set by the art department. That is what hot set means, and that is our film Tom of the week. Dom, please sing us out.
Dom and Giles film term of the week.
It wasn't so far off your first version.
No, I just I don't have much. I'm hungry. It's getting late in the evening.
It's getting late in the evening.
Wondering what clothes to wear. Should we go now?
Yeah. Again, thank you so much for listening. You're all actually probably amazing, and that's really good.
Well, good luck on the film shoot.
Thank you. And I'll let you know, by the way, how I'm getting on. Not just you, Dom, but everyone, you listener, what's happening week by week. I might even do a little blog into my phone, and then we can play that out. Maybe. But if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, 'tis your duty to
send your companion back down.
Very nice. Companion is out now. Go watch it. It's brilliant. Thanks, Dom.
Thanks, Charles.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm trying to think of a tongue twister. She sells seashells on the seashore. Your turn.
She sells seashells on the seashore.
Seashells, not she sells.
She sells sea. It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
She sells seashells on the seashore. Seashore.
Oh, God. Hey, one day we'll be presenters.
Yeah, one day.
One day.